What did you say, Ethan? The eternal judges all of you.
There it is. All right.
I die every time I see that.
We are recording.
More than I think.
Everybody see the smart board?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
All right. All right, what page are we on?
5.
Page 5. There we go. All right, so I'm going to mute everybody.
Bye.
So, like I said yesterday was kindergarten stuff, just some simple addition and subtraction today. It's second, third grade stuff. Basically, it's multiplication. It's multiplication by a scalar. A scalar, it's like a number outside of a parenthesis. It's going to multiply everything inside the parenthesis. So it's called a scalar because it scales the whole matrix. And so that 5 is going to multiply every number inside that matrix and create a new matrix with the new values. So I can't see my numbers because of all my ink. So we're going to have 20, 10, 15, 15, 25, negative 10, 45, 10, and 5. So scalars are pretty simple. Just remember your rules for with negatives and positives. Hello. Yep. Yeah, those are mine. Maybe. Let me call you back. I'm on a math class right now. All right, bye. Sorry, folks. Back to it. Anybody have any questions about a scalar?
No.
I wouldn't think so. All right, so now we're going to move on to multiplication of a matrix. And yes, it is a kind of a process that you got to kind of be very methodical with, but it's really pretty simple. So on this first one, number 5, is that number 5? Yes, it is. So you've got to take the first row times the first column, and that's going to give me my answer for that position. And so I'm going to do 1 times 7 plus 5 times 4. Well, that'll be 7 plus 20. That's 27. So I'm going to have 27 in that position. Now, for this answer, I've got to take the first row times the second column. So I'm going to have 1 times 3 plus 5 times 1. 3 plus 5 is 8. So I'm going to have an 8 right there. So I'll give you time to catch up. If you're trying to scribble that down real fast, trying to see it on your little iPod. So to get this was row 1. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. me calibrate. This is row 1, column 1. So we took row 1 times column 1 to multiply it together to get it. This is row 1, column 2. So we took row 1 and multiplied it by column 2. So you can kind of see how that works. Now we're going to go, we've got to get the, so now I need to take the second row times the first column, and that's going to give me my answer right here. So I'm going to have 3 times 7 plus 2 times 4, 21 plus 8 is 29. And then lastly, I'm going to take row 2 times column 2, and that's 3 times 3 plus 2 times 1. 9 plus 2 makes 11. So that goes in that spot. So you on this one? 3 times 7. Caitlin's asking me a question. 3 times 7, 2 times 4. Yes. So we took 3 times 7. So Caitlin's asking me about this one here. We took the 3 times the 7 and the 2 times the 4. And so then on the last one, this one here, we take the 3 times the 3 and the 2 times the 1. All right, so that has our answer. So I'm going to unmute everybody, see if anybody else has a question. All right, any questions?
I don't think so.
So Colin, you said it was very confusing. What do you think now that we've done one?
Yeah, I get it now.
It's
right.
not very confusing.
One thing that I do is I don't bother writing all this down necessarily, because I do it kind of like this. In my mind, now y'all watch this, in my mind, well, it's not cooperating. My board's not cooperating. There we go. In my mind, I take this first row and I flip it. Well, my board ain't cooperating. Come on, board, help me out. No, that ain't what I want to move. I flip it. Come on, board. There we go. I turn it sideways in my mind's eye, and I slide it over there next to those numbers, and I do the work in my head. I do that right there. 1 times 7, 5 times 4. Now, I might use some scratch paper and go, okay, 7 plus 20. I might use some scratch paper to work on it, but I don't necessarily write down the whole. And then in my mind, I say, okay, take that same one, bring it over here, and I do this just kind of in my head. And so that's where we got the 1 times 3 and the 5 times 1. And so I kind of do part of the work in my head by flipping, taking that column, taking that row, flipping it over, and in my mind's eye, slide it over there next to it and go, okay, 3 times 7, 4 times 2, which is 21 plus 8, which makes 29, and then I move it over here and go, okay, 3 times 3, 2 times 1, 9 plus 2 makes 11. So I don't necessarily write it all out. I do use scratch paper because sometimes the numbers get big and I can't necessarily do them all in my head. So now let's go to the next page. I'm going to mute everybody again. All right, so I'm going to follow that process if my board will cooperate. I take the first row. Oh, come on, board. Let me calibrate again. See if it'll get in tune with me. So bring it over here, turn it over, and I've got 3 times 8 is 24. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. So that's got me 30. So I still will use some scratch paper. But in my mind, I know I need to flip that. I need to flip that column or that row and let it lay on that column. And so now I'm going to have 15 minus 26, which makes negative 11. And now I'm done with the first row. I'm finished with it. Now I got to look at the second row. I got to take that second row, flip it up in my head, slide it over there. I got 8 times 9 is 72. Minus 12 makes 60. So I'm going to have a 60 there. Now I take that row. It's going to be 9 times 5, and 13 times 4. So I'm going to have 45 plus 13 times 4. Is that 52? I believe it is. Yes, it is. 45 plus 52 makes 97. So we're going to have a 97 right there. So that's the multiplication of that 2 by 2 matrix. One thing you'll notice, this is a 2 rows by 2 columns. This is 2 rows by 2 columns. When you multiply a 2 by 2, the answer will be a 2 by 2 matrix. If you multiply 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, it'll be a 3 by 3 matrix. Now on the next page, we're going to multiply matrices that aren't the same size, but we're going to show you why you can still do it. So I'm going to unmute everybody. We're getting ready to go to the next page, see if anybody has a question about this page. Any questions about this page? Was that for me? All right. So now let's move on to page 6. I'm going to mute everybody. All right. So the first matrix here is 2 rows by 3 columns. Okay. This next matrix is 3 rows by 1 column. We can multiply if the rows of the first, or if the columns of the first matrix match the rows of the second matrix. So we list them by row by column. That's how we list it. If the columns in the first is equal to the rows in the second, we can multiply. If those two numbers do not match, you cannot multiply. Now, your answer, the size of your answer will be 2 by 1. So we're going to get a 2 by 1 matrix as our answer. So this will make a little more sense as we do it. So let's proceed. So I'm going to take the first row. I'm going to flip it up, put it right next to those. Well, if it'll move for me, put it right next to that. So it's going to be 2 times 0, 4 times 3, 3 times 0. So I'm going to have 0 plus 12 plus 0. That gives me a 12. That's my first answer. It's a 12. Now, there's no other column. There's no other column to multiply here. So I'm finished with that first row. I'm done with it. So now it's time to use the second row. I'm going to take the second row, bring it over here, flip it up. So I'm going to have 1 times 0, 3 times -1, and 0 times 0, and add all that together. So it's going to be 0, -3, plus 0 is -3. And that is my answer. There's no other columns to multiply by, so I'm finished with that first row. And you see that the answer is a 2-row by 1 column answer. So let's unmute everybody. So what you think, Caitlin? She said it's easier than she thought. What about the rest of you?
About the same.
About the same. All right. So which number was that? That was number 2. Let's see how many more of these I've got. I've got 2 more to do.
Woohoo!
All
Thank the
right.
Lord.
This is number
Hopefully number 8's one of them.
Number 4. What size will the answer be?
A 3 by 1.
3 by 1. So this is a 3 by 3. Whoa, that's a nice 3. This is a 3 by 1. So the answer is, as he said, it's going to be 3 by 1. And I need to recalibrate. We should quit doing this. All right. So here we go. Like I said, in my mind's eye, I'm going to grab that first row. I'm going to flip it up. Whoa, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I'm going to put it right there beside of it. So I've got 20 plus 27 plus 2, which makes 49. And there's no more columns to multiply by, so I'm done with that. Now go to the second row, flip it up, slide it over. I've got a -5 plus 0 makes a -5. So that goes in the second. Since I'm using the second row, that answer goes in the second row. When I was using the first row, that answer went in the first row. Now there's no other columns to multiply by, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm done with it. Now I'm going to use the third row. Flip it, slide it in your head. You can't do this. I can do this on the board, but like I said, this is how I think about it in my mind. I don't write as much down. You can go ahead and write down 5 times 4 plus 5 times 9 plus 1 times 0. That's fine if you want to do that. Whatever you need to do to keep everything straight. 20 plus 45 plus 0 is 65. Since we multiplied by the third row, this answer will go in the third row. And that's going to be 65. And we're finished. A 3-row by 1 column matrix. Any questions about that one? All right, we're going to do one more.
Okay, which one is your row and which one's your column?
rows, let me get a highlighter. Come on, boy.
Rows go side to side and columns go up and down, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so, and then it's rows by columns.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my board won't give me a highlighter. Pesky board. Yes, Ethan said rows are horizontal. Well, now my board's froze up entirely. Not writing. Rows are horizontal. There we go. Now it's catching up.
The duck.
Rows are horizontal.
The duck.
Columns are vertical. And when you're looking at the size of a matrix, you list it row by column. Rows is listed first, the number of rows. The number of columns is listed second. So let's go to the next one. This will be the last one we do. Let's look at the size. This first one, what size is it?
A 3 by 2.
No, row by column. How many rows are there?
Yeah,
How
2
many
by 3.
rows? There are two horizontal rows. 1 row, 2 rows. 2 rows by 1, 2, 3 columns. Rows by columns. So now the second one, what size is it?
3 by 3.
It's 3 by 3. So this right here tells me we can multiply. And this tells me the size of my answer. It's going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. Now that just helps you know that just helps you evaluate whether you can multiply. Do they have in here? No. There's one on the checkup that you cannot multiply. I'll let you find it when you get there. All right. So here we go. We're going to multiply. Let me get rid of some of this ink. Let me mute everybody. Sounds like a party started.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. So I take the first row, I flip it up, and I'm going to multiply it by all 3 of those columns. So I'm going to grab it, flip it, slide it, slide it, slide it over here. And so in my mind, I've got 6 plus 0 plus 3. And that makes 9. So I'm going to have 9 in the first row in the first column. Now I'm going to slide over to the second column. That's going to give me a 0 plus 1 minus 9 makes -8. That's going to go, it's still in the first, since I'm multiplying by the first row, all the answers I write go in the first row. And now I'll take this first row, get it over here next to the third column, and I've got 4 plus 1 plus 0. And that gives me a 5 in the third row, in the third column of the first row. So I'm finished with the first row. Slide that out of the way. I've got my matrix started. Now we know we're going to get a 2 row by 3 column. So now I'm going to take the second row. Second row. Please move second row. There we go. Flip it. Slide it. And multiply and add. So now I'm going to have 3 plus 0 makes 3. So I'm going to have a 3. That was the second row that multiplied the first column. So that answer went in second row, first column. Now we're going to slide that over. And we're going to have 0 plus 4 plus 0. So I'm going to have a 4 in the next column. Somebody left. And now we'll do the next one. I'm going to have -2 plus 4 plus 0 makes 2. I'm going to have a 2 in the third column of the second row. Let's see if I got it right. Well, this person in this pace got it wrong. Now they got me doubting myself.
I got -3 and then a -2.
Did you? Let's see. That's why you got to hold your mouth when you multiply. You got to hold your mouth straight. That is number 8, isn't it? Yeah, it is a -3. Yeah, that would be right. Negative, because that would be a negative right here. All right, yep. So I did have one mistake. All right, so I did have one mistake there. So now that is correct. And so you're going to do these 2 pages multiplying. If you need to write out all the work, please go ahead and do that. Don't try to do it quick, but I know a lot of you guys like to get things done quick, and you're into saving trees and not using a lot of paper. But if you have to write out 3 times -1 plus 4 times 0 plus 1 times 0, that's what we did right here with that. If you need to write out that first step that way, by all means, go ahead and do it. Be as thorough as you need to be to get the work done properly. So you're going to finish page 5 and 6. You're going to do the checkup. As I mentioned on the checkup, numbers 7 through 16, they have on there, if the matrices cannot be multiplied, right cannot be multiplied. So there are, let's see here, there is one that cannot be multiplied. I'll let you figure out which one it is. All right, so let me unmute everybody. All right, anybody have any questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
Any chance you can do number 5?
I can do it. Yes, I can. What about you?
Got him.
Nope.
Number
Wow.
5 on what page?
6.
Why is it bothering you? What about it you're not sure about?
You can't. Well,
I figured out which one cannot be combined on the checkup.
does the 5 just stay as a 5 and not get
Which one do you
multiplied
think it is, Ethan?
when you're multiplying the first column with the
I'm
first?
serious. Like I wrote down what I think it is.
All right,
already.
hold on. What page are
The
you
duck.
on, Colin?
Page 6.
Number 5?
Yep.
Okay. You're going to
Where is
take.
it? Oh,
There's
okay.
there's 2 5s there. There's one in the row. There's one in the first matrix. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Yeah, I figured it out. Never mind.
So you're
I
going
got
to
it.
take all the rows of the first matrix and multiply it by the columns of the second matrix.
Yeah.
So what size? That first one is 3 rows by 2 columns. The second one is 2 rows by 2 columns. So this tells me we can multiply, and my answer is going to be a 3 by 2 matrix. It's going to be the same size as that first matrix.
Ethan. Whoa. On the Golden Gate Bridge. Woo.
You talking
Don't
about?
jump, Ethan. Don't jump.
Colin, the first thing I'm going to have here, I'm going to have 2 times 3 plus 3 times 0.
What happens when green comes on it? Oh man.
The first row by the first column. You with me? You with me, Colin?
Yeah.
So that's going to be 6 plus 0, so that's going to be 6.
Jonathan, where'd you go to get the duck?
Now I got to take this row times this column. So I'm going to have 2 times 5 plus 3 times 1. 10 plus 3 is 13. So that's 13 right there. So I'm finished with the first row. Now I've got to take the second row. I've got to take the second row, multiply it here, and then multiply it here. That get you started?
Yeah.
Okay. See if you can finish it up. We can get together if you need help finishing one. Anybody else have any questions?
I think that's got it.
All right. Have a good day.
Alrighty, see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.